Hello, looking at another P now from the marketing mix, but this one's price. So you need to understand pricing strategies for Unit 2 and how they can be used by businesses to grow. Now, you often see this in the specification objectives because that's really what Unit 2 is all about. It's that big businesses and how they can grow even larger, because that is very often one of the main aims of these bigger businesses. And we've also got to describe the factors that might influence the pricing decision that businesses make. So I'm going to be talking about these pricing strategies that we can use, and I'm going to be linking it into this specification objective and saying when you would use this pricing strategy. So it kind of kills two birds, one stone, really. So price is very important for the marketing mix because it affects whether the product is affordable, so how much demand there is for the product. Remember in Unit 1, you looked at a little bit of economics, you looked at demand curves, and if we put quantity along the bottom and price up the side, we saw that demand was downward sloping usually. And this is because at high prices, not so many people can afford it, or people might pick alternate products because there's substitute products on the market, whereas at lower prices more people can afford it and it looks more attractive compared to other other products that are on the market. So price is very, very important. You've got to think about, can your target market, the people that you're trying to aim your product at, the people that you want to buy your product, can they afford the product? It's also going to determine how competitive it is compared to other products on the market made by your competitors, because it's quite unusual actually that you have a unique product, or you have what we call a monopoly on a product. There are usually competitors in the market. If you have come up with a new idea or a gap in the market and it is successful, I bet within quite a short amount of time, other competitors will notice that and they'll try and enter the market as well. So if you don't have competitors now, you probably will have them in the future. So it's very important to think about your pricing decisions. And the products, bit of a spelling mistake there, a grammar mistake. We should have a apostrophe there. The product's image as well, the price has an impact on. So sometimes products can be priced intentionally high to create a more luxurious product image and brand for the product. So let's have a look at some of these pricing strategies then. So competitive pricing is where you set a price based on what competitors are charging. And this is used in very competitive markets where there are lots of very similar products. So there's not much difference between those products. And customers are what we call quite price sensitive. So price is going to be a really important factor in deciding whether the customer is going to buy the product or not. And we've seen that with supermarkets and the products that they sell. There've been lots of kind of price wars going on between different supermarkets. This is a picture from Sainsbury's, and they're actually mentioning their competitors, Asda and Tesco here, and they're saying brand match, and you're definitely getting the product as cheaply as you can get it here, as you know, you won't find it a lower price at these other supermarkets there. So this is an example of competitive pricing, and it's very important to recognise that it's when you have lots of other competitors selling the same things, because Asda and Tesco do sell the same things as Sainsbury's. The only difference is apart from their own branded stuff, but you know, all the big brands you're going to get at all the supermarkets. So that's why they use competitive pricing. Price skimming. Okay, this one's a little bit more complicated, and students often get this mixed up with penetration pricing, but it's actually quite straightforward once you know what's happening. Okay, so it's setting a high price at first, and this creates a high quality and exclusive image, and then after a while, you lower the price to appeal to more customers, maybe customers that at first wouldn't have been able to afford that high price. So the reason for doing this is that you can increase the total revenue. And I'm going to draw two diagrams here. You wouldn't need to draw these in the exam, but this really explains it well. So imagine that this is the demand curve that I drew on the other page, okay? And if you set one price, here we go, this is P1, this is the amount of demand you're going to get for it. Okay, so quantity demanded is there. And if we do price times quantity, we know that that's revenue. So this box actually represents the revenue that you get from setting that price. So it looks all right, doesn't it? fine. But if you use price skimming, what you do is you start off with a high price at first. Okay, now this box, this little bar here, this rectangle, represents my revenue. And that rectangle, you don't need to be a genius at mathematics to work out that this rectangle is a smaller space than a smaller surface area even than this square or rectangle here. Okay, but if over time you lower the price, so we'll start off with the price quite high and then we might lower it down a little bit, and I'm going to get some more customers for this product after a while, and I'm going to gain some more revenue, that extra additional little bar there. And then after a while I might lower it even more and we get an extra additional bar here, and you can probably see where I'm going with this. Okay, so if you keep on doing that, you again, that should have been a straight line, you don't need to be a genius at maths to see that the surface area of this one is larger than that one. So the surface area of this one, this is price skimming strategy. So you start with a high price and then you lower it over time. So it actually can increase your total revenue. Now, it's only used in markets where people are willing to pay a high price to have that product first. So here I've got one of these iWatches, and it's used a lot with technology because there can be quite high demand for it, usually branded products. You're not going to get the same effect if, you know, you're bringing out a new cereal, because that's not maybe something people would queue for. So it's got to be something that people really, really want, and they're willing to pay a really high price at first to get it first. And then it appeals to more people as you lower the price over time. So that's price skimming, setting a high price at first, lowering it over time. Penetration pricing is a bit like the opposite. Actually, you set a low price to enter the market. So this is usually a new product, as it was with price skimming. Actually, it's usually a new product that you're entering the market with, but you're entering a market with a product that probably already exists in the market, and there's probably competitors in the market already, and so you're going to enter with a low price to try and attract people to it and try and get them to try the product. And then once they like the product and you've gained market share, you can then afterwards increase the price back to its normal level. So this penetration pricing is a bit like the pricing strategies where you're in a supermarket and you see kind of introductory offer 20% off. And it's going to be used in competitive markets, as I said, where there are already similar products on the market. And again, customers are sensitive to price changes. So if you put a low price on a product, they're going to be quite enticed by it. So I went onto the Asda website and I found this, which is a new product. We can see new there, Lucozade 0 calories orange drink, and we've got a kind of a special offer going on because it's a new product, I assume. So maybe at the full normal price, fewer people would be enticed to buy it and intrigued by this one, but with an introductory price, people might think, oh, what the heck, I'll try this one, it's not very expensive, and then if they like it, they'll continue buying it even when the price goes up in the end. So it's a good way of introducing a market, like a promotional deal to introduce to the market. If we link it back to the product life cycle, it's the kind of thing that you're going to do during the introduction phase and leading into the growth phase. But you might, once you start to get that growth, that might be when you're putting the price up. Cost plus pricing. Now this is where you set a price by adding a profit markup to the total cost of producing a product. So say a product costs you £8 and you want to make sure that you make £2 profit. You're just going to add £2 to it and the price is going to be £10. There we go. That's how we do cost plus pricing. This is going to be used where you want to guarantee a profit margin. Now, I'm sure lots of businesses would like to do that, but you can only really do it in a less competitive market. Okay, because if this was a very competitive market and every other producer was selling for £8.50, you're not just going to say, well, I want to make £2 per product, so I'm going to sell for £10, because, you know, why would customers buy from you if they could buy from somebody else? So you can only do this where there's not very much competition. I don't actually have a picture for this one because it's not really a strategy, I would say, that's used by most big businesses, because most big businesses are in very competitive markets. So I wouldn't, unless you've got no competition, I wouldn't think that this is a great one if you want to achieve a lot of growth. Okay, loss leader pricing. This one's really interesting. So this is setting a price below the cost to attract other sales. Okay, so that doesn't always give you as much information as you need, that little definition. So it's used by businesses to attract customers into their stores usually. So this is exactly what Pound will do. Now I know everything is a pound, but what they do sometimes is they get some branded items. I can see here in the window they've actually got, I think these are Walker's crisps, so branded items. Walker's are a big brand. Here we've got cereals, we've got kind of Nestle cereals. I bet we've got some Kellogg cereals in there as well. So this is kind of what they're doing. They're doing a loss leader pricing because actually this £1 may not cover the whole cost of producing those. I mean, I know Pound World don't actually produce them, but for Pound World to buy those products in, but it attracts, look at all these people milling around, and they're like, wow, Walker's, cheap Walker's, brilliant, and look how many people are in the store. So it attracts people to go into the store, and then when they're in there, there's so many other products that they could buy, and everything's priced at £1 in a Pound World store, but not everything will have the same amount of profit margin on it. So these probably things here have very, very small profit margins, the branded things, but these are the things, these are the loss leaders that draw people into the store and attract people to this product. Another example, oh, I've got a lot of text on there. Let's see if I can get rid of that. There we go. Another example of a loss leader pricing strategy is with printers. Now, printers typically are quite cheap to buy, relatively cheap for what they are and for compared to the price of the ink. So you could get a printer like this for £50, £60. That's a bit of squiggly line. It was meant to be a circle, and it's not that expensive. But once you want to buy the ink, it is much more expensive. So what they're doing is they're probably selling these printers for maybe cost price or just below cost price, so it would be making a loss, to try and get you to use, this is an HP printer, so to try and tie you into using HP products, because once you've got the printer, if you want to keep on printing things out and using their products, you have to buy the specially created HP ink. So it's quite good getting you tied into buying a product, and that's why they often do that with printers. So you need to know what each of these pricing strategies are. Price skimming, price penetration, these are usually entering the market with new products, but price skimming is when you start off with a high price penetration or penetration pricing is when you start off with the low price. Competitive pricing is when you're in a very competitive market and you're setting the prices the same as your competitors. Loss leader pricing below the cost, and cost plus is when you're adding on a specific markup to make a specific amount of profit. So it needs to roll off the tongue as quickly with you as it did just then with me, and then you need to think about what factors influence which one of these you're going to choose. So the nature of the market, if there's lots of competition, you're going to be using more competitive pricing methods or price penetration. If it's a new product and it's very much in demand, it might be price skimming. You might be using a cost plus strategy if there's not much competition in the market. If you are a business with a really large product portfolio and you've got a product that's going to entice customers in so that they buy the other products in your range, you might want to use a loss leadership strategy.